Welcome, folks. Thank you for joining us today. We'll get into just a beginning introduction or overview of Inventor iLogic. Take a look at some of the tools that are built in and just a high-level view here. As Ashley mentioned, we've got the questions panel at the bottom, so feel free to type your questions in there. We'll get those taken care of for you. And today we're going to discuss the definition and capabilities of iLogic. We'll be looking at how to access those iLogic tools and the interface itself. And I'll give a short demo on some simple model and drawing rules just to give you a taste of what iLogic can do. So what exactly is iLogic? Inventor iLogic functionality capitalizes on the parameters and equations built into the Inventor models in the drawing environment. Its purpose is to add a higher level of intelligence and automation to our designs. It enables designers and engineers to set criteria in the form of established rules. And these rules capture and manipulate the design intent and can perform multiple different configurations within a given design. iLogic rules that define that design intent control the models, automate the design workflow to ensure that models can change and react in a specified manner. iLogic rules are based on conditional statements and functions, which are embedded in the rule creation dialog box that we'll look at here in just a little bit. There's no programming knowledge required. I am by no means a programmer. Forrest can testify to that. But you know, it's pretty simple to get into the easy functions. Programming experience is definitely a benefit when you begin to get into the advanced functions. And iLogic is VB based, so Visual Basic Code can be used within these rules. Some of the functionality, and this is again just tip of the iceberg. We can control model and user parameter values, and that's the text parameters, the Boolean true-false parameters, and the numeric parameters. We can activate or suppress part and assembly features, extrusions, revolves, so on and so forth. We can include or suppress and actually delete components within an assembly, delete and add. We can control assembly constraints, setting those or changing those. We can perform multiple operations based on a single user input. Hopefully we'll see that here in just a little bit. Change one thing and multiple things happen. We can perform checks for specific values within iProperties, for values in parameters or dimensions for different design situations. We can update material, iProperty values, instance information if we need to within the models. We can read document information such as the file path, file name, or file type. We can measure entities within the model and return values within message boxes. We can provide some customized feedback within those message boxes. Things are within a range or without a range, yes, no values, so on and so forth. We can control iFeature, iPart, and iAssembly configurations with our iLogic rules. We can control the use of model states within iLogic, the new model states for 2022. We can incorporate the execution of other rules within a parent rule. Interface directly with a predefined form and set parameters and iProperty values within that form, so you're not having to bounce around to different interfaces. We can control the size of borders, title block information based on user entry. And we can also control drawing view location, size, and or suppression, so where it is in the drawing, or whether it even shows on the drawing. The basic iLogic workflow, and again, this is starting out as brand new. We're going to build the models or the drawings, whatever we've got, add and name our parameters as we need, and check those and make sure that we can manipulate those and the model does what we want it to do. Once we have it working manually, we begin to create the rules, and we're going to add statements and functions, control the model, and we're going to test and verify each rule. And this is trial and error. It really is. Once the rules are working, then we can create the forms and get those to fire under different conditions. And honestly, rinse and repeat. Just keep doing it over and over and over for each individual type of rule or change that we want to make. When it comes to creating those models, it's a good idea to add and name features, iProperties parameters. We've done some of this already when we come in and we name a feature, and it just helps us identify that feature as we're creating those rules. Or we name specific parameters. It's easier to grab those and we know what they do. And like I said, flex the model, run through and change the values manually in parameters or suppression of features or components. Make sure that it works the way you want it to work. Once that's done, we begin to create the rules, and that's done through the iLogic interface. Those tools are found on the ribbon Manage tab in the iLogic panel, and we've got the ability to add rules. We'll be able to launch the iLogic browser that'll pop on the left-hand side by the model browser, and of course that can be docked anywhere. And as we go through the process, we create different triggers, the iTrigger, and different forms. The edit rule dialog box is where we do the rule creation and make changes. It has three basic areas. The box itself has a separate panel on the left that we call the snippets panel, and inside this there are basically templates with rule syntax that's already defined for us, so we don't have to type every single piece or every single command out. It's very important to get the syntax exactly correct. iLogic will let us know when we don't have the right syntax. The upper panel has tabs where we can access the model content, things like parameters, features, iProperties, so on and so forth. And there's also some tabs for different rule options, as well as search and replace, and some wizards that can help us create dialog boxes and things. And then down below is the rule editor, and this is where our syntax for our rules are created. And the process, if you do know anything about coding, is not that much different. But we'll take a look at that here in just a little bit. Some additional tools that come in with iLogic are the event triggers and the iTrigger tool. We can set up specific triggers or events to fire specific rules, whether that's opening a document, creating a new document, before or after a save, changes to iProperties or changes to material. We can have any given rule fire on those events, or a series of rules fire on those events. As we get deeper into it, there is a manual tool called the iTrigger, which will fire a rule. A lot of times we see this for launching a form. We can cause that to happen, and we'll take a look at that little guy. And then those forms, we don't have to have any coding experience to create the forms. There's a form editor, and it simply uses drag and drop tools. We can get to that form editor on the iLogic panel, Manage tab, iLogic panel, and there's a little pull down, so we can begin to create forms. And then as long as we have our rules, our parameters, iProperties set, we can drag and drop those and have those filled out in the forms. And then we can add pictures and manipulate the buttons and the way the form looks a little bit. Makes it pretty simple. We don't have to know how to code these forms to create those. So let me pull up Inventor, and let's take a look at some of these tasks here. I've got a couple different files that I've worked with, and we'll see if we can't manipulate these just a little bit. Here it's a simple connecting rod. We've got a few features, some fillets, a couple of extrusions, and a face draft. And in our parameters area here, we can see that we've named some things. So we'll go into our iLogic browser, and on the Manage tab, we can launch that browser from right here. We can also hit the plus sign right there and pull up the browser, no big deal. And in our initial rules for this guy, there is this length rule. I'm going to go ahead and double click on that, and that brings up that edit rule dialog box. As we go through this, we can see that we've got that parameter of length, those model parameters here, one of those being length. And we've set up a rule that says, well, if it's less than 80, then some values for the outer diameters are going to change. Some inner diameters are going to change, and we're going to see the result of those. If it's greater than 80, again, some different values. So let's go ahead and see what happens when we manipulate this guy. We'll slide this up to the top, and let's see. Let's show our dimensions here just a minute. So we've got those. Let's see. And here's our expression. There's that length parameter. There's some different things here. So let's go ahead and change length to, say, 85. And I'll hit that. And of course, we've made a change. We can see that the initial sketch has changed. We've changed the value of these outside portions here. Let's update that. And we'll look one more time at the dimensions. So sure enough, our outside is 23. Our outside smaller is 20. That length is 80. And if we switch that guy back, let's change that value, say 55 this time, and give a quick little update. So again, the overall length changes and those outside diameters change. So that rule's working pretty good. Not too bad of a deal. Let's make a couple of other changes here. Let's see. One thing that I want to do is figure out how to change the material under different conditions. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a text parameter. And I'm going to make this a multi-value parameter. So just a simple right click. We'll get the multi-value box up. We'll do a couple different values here. Add both of those, and simple switch between the two makes it easy. Nothing terribly difficult. And obviously those aren't going to change anything in the model quite yet. Let's go into our iLogic area and let's add a rule right from the browser here. So either way, whether we add it from this or use the tool in the ribbon, it'll work. We'll call this the style rule. Select OK here. And there's some pretty neat little things that were given within the edit rule dialog box. We can come in and immediately add an if-then statement with the end if. And one of the neat things that we can do is highlight some of that template text and just come in and select our actual values. So I'm going to do, say, if my style parameter, and then we'll put equals, and I'm going to grab one of those equation values. So we'll say heavy duty, and let's end that quote there. Then I want something to happen. So in this case, my desire was to change the material under those two conditions. So if I go into my I properties, I have adds material, and you can see that it even shows me the code, what that's going to look like. So if I just simply type that in, I can say, well, I property materials is going to equal, and I begin to type something. One of the big keys with adding property or adding material properties is that you want to add specifically and exactly what the material library has listed. So I'll do steel. Let's see, high strength, low alloy. Now, when you make a mistake, type it wrong, forget a comma, something to that effect. The iLogic rules will let you know. And in this particular case, I have done that. The actual material list in the material library is steel, comma, high strength, low alloy. I'm going to leave that one alone for the moment. We'll just so we can see that error. Now I want to go ahead and add another option for if it's not if style is not set to heavy duty. So I can use just a simple else statement, and we'll go ahead and copy that that existing one here, and I'll paste that in. And then, because I've got Forrest on the line, I have to clean things up and make it look nice and neat. Otherwise, he yells at me. So we'll go ahead and tab that over and clean that up just a little bit. And let's fix our material type down here. So if style is not that that heavy duty setup, then we want carbon. So I've got a very simple rule here. I'm going to go ahead and save and run that rule. And immediately it says, well, you got a problem. Tells me what error, what line it's on. And it tells me in this particular case what the problem is. And it says that it's a bad material. So I'll hit OK, brings me right back to that box. And real simply, I can go ahead and change that. I happen to know that's the one. I'll hit save. And sure enough, my material is now set to high strength, low alloy. So let's change our parameter here just a minute. Light duty. And sure enough, that changes. Now, I want to do a couple of other things. Marketing wants this to be identified a little bit better or a little bit more. So I'm going to add a couple of other conditions into our style library or our style rule here. And those are going to be the color of given features. So we'll add a line in, and I've got access to some feature tools here, whether it's active or thread designation, so on and so forth. In this case, I want to do color. So I'm going to do feature color. And I really want to change the main extrusion, that face draft, and the mirror of the face draft. So I get the majority of the body there. So I'm going to go ahead and add basically 3 of these in here. Just a simple double click brings that in. And let's do one more. And now I've got the template set up to do this, but I need to get the actual features themselves that I want to change. So I'm going to start with our extrusion 1 here. That's the main extrusion. And all I have to do is highlight that template area, double click on the name, and it fills it in for me. Because I have an awful time with typing things out correctly, this is a lifesaver for me. I am constantly typing the wrong text. So this really helps. Now I'm going to come in and add that color change. Do it again down here. And you can see that the tools kind of help fill things out in the proper manner and with the right information. They add the quotes for me. Now that I've got this done, all I need to do is really copy that to my other condition. And I'll tab over here. We'll paste that in. And give another option. Let's see, there we go. All right, so let's save and run it. Oh, it's got something that it doesn't like. Let's go take a look. So, I didn't change my other features, so let's go ahead and select those. For this one, under names, we'll select face draft, bring that in. We'll select mirror 2 and bring that in. There we go. Do the same thing for these guys. There we go. How about save and run now? Look at that. So now I've got my component under light duty that is blue, and a simple switch here will go ahead and make that heavy duty, changes it to red. So pretty easy, nothing real complicated. Now, one of the things that that I have in this particular situation is while I've got my rules set to define a specific material, I can inadvertently come in and select any material I want. So wood, birch, and it sticks. Now, if I switch my parameter, then of course the rule is going to run. But I kind of want to make that rule run if there's any change to materials, and that's where those event triggers come in. So I'll select that guy. I've got my style rule, and in this particular case, I've got the access to that material change. So it's just a simple drag and drop. I can park it there. I'll select OK. Let's go ahead and grab something else. Let's grab silver. Immediately it runs the rule, and because I'm at that heavy duty, I'm set to high strength, low alloy. If I change my parameter to light duty, again, everything updates. It changes the way that it's supposed to. And if I try to select an inadvertent material, it just automatically changes back. And then the last thing that I want to do with this guy is I'm tired of having to jump into parameters all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and create a quick little form, nothing real fancy. Again, we're going to call this guy style. We'll select OK. And I really need just my iProperties and a parameter value in here. So the way that works is it's pretty simple to just drag and drop. There's the style user parameter that I've created in here, and then I probably just want to go ahead and be able to change my length within my form as well. Now, some other things that I can do with this, I can certainly add a picture in like we saw in our PowerPoint. Again, just simple drag and drop, and that gives us a spot on the form for the picture. I can add tabs in if I want to do that. These are all here. I can come into the form itself and say, you know what, I don't want just the done button. I want to go ahead and have an OK, cancel, and apply option on that. And maybe I want to change the look of the form itself. I can alter the text content. I can change that visual style to be, something different. Maybe we'll do 3D. There we go. That looks a little bit better. And I'll select OK. So now this form's created. So again, I can take this and just click on that form, and I can change my options right here, and I get both of those options. So I can set in different values and get my different updates really quickly. Makes it pretty simple. Forms can be run on event triggers, or like I said, there's oftentimes when we'll add in the iTrigger button to launch those forms. So whether that's we do an event trigger of a new model, save, whatever, we have the option to launch those. I wanted to show you guys one other simple rule that has to do with drawings, and this is kind of a beneficial thing. Not too long ago, we had a question come across through a support case about changing the title block. The company changed hands and they updated their title block, new logo, new look, and they had dozens upon dozens, if not hundreds, of existing drawings with the old title block. So they wanted to know if there was a simple way to update that title block without having to do a bunch of copy and paste. And there is a pretty simple way. What I've done is actually created an external rule. So what we saw before were rules that were right within the document, and this particular rule is saved outside. So it's just saved at a network folder location, happens to be on my system, but you can save these anywhere. And it's really pretty simple. We can grab a resource drawing, and as long as that file lives within your project location, that's all that's required. And of course, it has the title block that you want. So if you create a new template, you save that template within your project location. You can create this very simple little rule. It's set up in two different options here. Let's see. The resource file name is the first line. So this drawing, resource file name, it's under the drawing classics area. And then change title block. So that's the two lines that make this thing happen. I'm going to go ahead and close this so we can watch this happen. And all I have to do is run the rule. And sure enough, it just very quickly changes that title block out. You know, if there's any information that's common between the two, title, part number, whatever, that would fill out in your title block automatically. Makes it pretty simple. You can see that it's got the file name here for its part number. So nothing real hard about those. And as I said at the beginning, this is really just that introductory side. Couple of additions that we'll look at here beyond just the standard help options. We have a programming help, programming API help, and there are dozens upon dozens of different options that you can look at, different examples that you can look at, and it helps you to code those more advanced things. There is the Develop Inventor site that we can go to, and within this site, we can see things like Mod the Machine blog, as well as the discussion groups. Another huge set of resources that we can get to and learn some more things about working with Inventor's iLogic. We do offer, of course, the iLogic training class. I think we've got one coming up the second week of December. There are a number of things that we look at, you know, just that functionality overview, the workflow itself, we get into that a lot, as well as looking at the parameters, equations, and iProperties and their importance in iLogic, looking at the iLogic panel, the edit rule dialog box in the browser. Rule creation, we get into creating a lot of different rules within the class. There's a lot of hands-on exercises, and using different variations of conditional statements instead of just if-then statements. We can get into, you know, case statements and some different options, as well as accessing and incorporating various functions in assemblies and drawings and parts. We do get into the triggers and the iTrigger, as well as creating those forms in the class. Beyond the class, and again, it's an introductory class for people that have never done programming, for people that have never done worked with iLogic. We can get into some custom iLogic and programming. Forrest, being one of the senior consulting engineers, controls a lot of that and works with those of us that are just getting started. We can do it in a multitude of ways. We can work it as a training session and help you build your models. Something that's pretty intense. We can develop that code and develop the tools for you, and then teach your team how to use those. And then along with that, with either one of those, we offer that long-term mentoring and support for those custom setups. And the last thing along the lines of iLogic and automation is the Hagerman Automation Connection tool. And it is a tool that delivers those customized engineering to order or configure to order solutions, kind of removes or limits the repetitive and menial modeling tasks, can work with the appropriate CAD application, And certainly there's no direction or direct interaction with CAD required. We help you set this up and develop this for you for your needs. Obviously, it results in improved engineering throughput, expanding your CTO and ETO offerings, as well as increasing your time for product development for the higher end or custom work. And finally, reducing the turnaround time for RFQs. So it's an excellent tool. It's being altered and changed and improved very often, and Forrest works with that tool, and we can help you develop that. Some additional connection tools, and you guys have probably seen this slide if you've ever watched one of our webinars before. Most of these deal with the Autodesk Vault data management tool, QVP or Query View Print for those that need to look at files inside of Vault but don't have Vault access. Lifecycle connection for notification for lifecycle changes, and the backup connection for keeping up-to-date information about your Vault backups, as well as the auto plot and projection or project connection tools. So we can bring those in. So I hope I didn't bore you guys too much. Hope that was some good information. Where do we stand with questions, Forrest?
There's one question that I don't know the answer to, but you must. How did you get line numbers on your iLogic rule? I didn't know you could do that.
That is a 2022 tool that came out with the update of Inventor 2022. Shocked me as well. I taught an iLogic class a couple of weeks ago, and boom, there it was.
Well, maybe you have to save it the first time, because I just fired up a rule.
I think it might have been one of the updates, update 1 or 2. I did just install Inventor update 2, so I'll bet that's what it was.
Okay, yeah, because I'm on update 1 right now. So
yeah, it must be update 2.
Because when you start a new rule, the line numbers are there immediately, like as you start typing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Whether, I'll go here and add rule, and I won't change anything.
Yep, it's got to be update 2.
Yep,
because I don't see any option for it. And it's not on mine, it's update 1. So,
yep.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Very good.
And I think I handled the other questions.
Yeah, just a few. Any other questions today? We've had some great success and done some really impressive things with iLogic, and Forrest has actually taught me so many things about it. I still consider myself a novice, but I'm getting there. I was never a programmer. I didn't take programming in school. This is something that you can pick up. Yep, and Shane mentioned the same thing. 2022 update does list that in the release notes. So.
Oh yeah, and it's only a week old, so I don't feel so bad for not having it.
Yeah, no, it hasn't been out very long either. And I'll just throw this out there. I don't know if you guys if you're on Vault or not on Vault. 2022 update 2 just came out. I have not gone through exactly what that does, although I do have it installed. So that is out there. Okay, any other questions before we call it a day and let you guys get some lunch? Well, that gets a little bit deeper. Jeannie just asked, can you show us the Excel data links and talk about what it can do with Excel? I believe those are in the advanced API, are they not, Forrest? Is that where we go for?
There are some iLogic, there are Excel data links. If you look at your snippets up there, 7th from the top.
Let's see. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So finding a row within a specific table, current row value, cell values, So as you call these out, and I'll put one, just simple here, just as you go out and give the file name, the sheet number, the column name, and that column size, you can find that row. If you get, we'll come into our cell value too. And again, file name, sheet name, and the cell value, so you can pull those in. And once you have those, then obviously you can use that to manipulate properties. You can use that to manipulate parameters.
Yeah, I really like the embedded option too. I avoid linking spreadsheets whenever I can. I know in some cases if you have people inputting data separately, you don't really have any choice, but I prefer to use embedded spreadsheets when I really have to use spreadsheets. I think iLogic is really useful when you're trying to move. Say you had an old spreadsheet you had linked parameters to, and you've got a bunch of logic in that spreadsheet. The Excel stuff can help you get into iLogic without having to redo all of your logic in the part or the assembly or whatever right away. I do prefer to have all of the logic eventually, though, just as iLogic rules and not in Excel, because it gets complicated trying to figure out where are we figuring out this parameter. Is it in the spreadsheet? Is it in an iLogic rule? It can be hard to troubleshoot things.
Absolutely.
But yeah, especially if you've got people that are just like inputting data into a spreadsheet and say saving it into a folder somewhere, you could certainly, open up Inventor and run a rule that reads that spreadsheet. And it's the snippets make it pretty straightforward to either like read from specific cells or like that first line you see there if you're trying to find a row based on the values in the spreadsheet.
Right.
You can do that too. And it's nice too. There's there's something there that Go Excel, like I think if you how each of those method calls right there are pointing to a spreadsheet. I think there's a way you can also call them after you've specified what spreadsheet you're working with. Okay, so cell values current. If you double click on that snippet,
okay,
yeah, either one, and so you notice how that one doesn't point to a spreadsheet. So in order to keep the code a little simpler, if you're working with the same spreadsheet in a rule, once you've specified the spreadsheet, like you do in like one of the first two lines, then if you're just pulling values out, then you don't have to specify the sheet name again necessarily. So that can be really handy and save you a lot of typing and potential typos by not having to specify the spreadsheet name every time.
Absolutely. Very good. Any other questions? All right. That seems to be the end of the questions. Greatly appreciated. If you have any interest in the class, if you want to learn more about the automation connection, or if you end up with, hey, can iLogic do this? Please don't hesitate to email us. We can get you that information, and we'll be glad to do so. Ashley, I think we can send it back to you.
Okay, well, thank you for the presentation. Thank you everyone for attending. A reminder, there will be a short survey pop up as we close down, and also you will receive an email tomorrow which will contain a link for the recording of today's presentation. Thank you for attending and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.